and good evening. This is the Tech Travel Geeks podcast for the week of September 3rd, 2018. I'm Chief Mobile Opinionist Matteo, and this evening it's just myself and our Chief Aperture Officer, Lukasz. Good evening, Lukasz.
Hey Matteo, how's it going? How are you feeling today?
I have quite a cold at the moment, as well as a bit of a sore back. So
Yeah,
I'll be relatively quiet and on mute whilst I splutter and cough. And we'll let you talk about what you've been up to this weekend, both
sounds
in
good.
terms of travel and geeky stuff you've been up to.
Yep.
So that's it. As I mentioned, I've got a bit of a cold, feeling very sorry for myself. I'm thinking this is verging on the dreaded man flu, but we'll find out at some point during the week.
But you've got the cats to take care of you, so
Exactly. So I get purred better by Val and Rodney. And
yeah.
today is also my Rodney-versary, as in it's the anniversary of when we went to pick up Rodney. And he is the subject of many of my pictures on Instagram. So
I might have noticed. Yeah.
happy Rodney-versary.
Happy anniversary.
So, Lukasz, this week in travel disruption.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, you were on your way back from Stirling and got stuck somewhere. It was messy. Or was it the time before? Yes, it was the time before.
Yeah.
What happened this weekend?
So this time I was in Belfast for the Power of Video conference, which was a fantastic event. I'll talk about it in a moment. And yeah, I had issues getting to the airport because the bus driver, when asked, "Are you going to the international airport?" said yes, but he meant the Dublin International rather than Belfast International. So I ended up going to the wrong way, and because the conference overran, and a friend of mine who I was talking to said it will definitely go to Belfast, so it was just going slightly around. I believed him, and I ended up not making the plane. So I had an extra night in Belfast last night. But all throughout that ends well, and I'm here, so
Oh
no
well,
issues.
Dublin, Belfast, those Irish cities, they're all the same to us.
Yeah.
Just your boarding
So,
pass might not be accepted in another airport.
yeah,
Or
but I got to fly by flight, so that was quite good because they have the smaller four rows planes, and I quite enjoyed those. So it was a nice experience.
the turboprop planes, while they may look less advanced than jets planes, are much more reliable
Mm.
and much easier to handle in UK weather. That's one
Yep.
of the reasons they're very popular with regional transportation here. Things such as the Dash 8 and so forth, they're very popular, and I really quite enjoy those. The ones they fly from Edinburgh to London City are great little turboprops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So other than that, the event was fantastic. So I'll briefly talk about who was there. I'm not sure how much our audience is into the video part of the YouTube, but there were a few big names in the YouTube community. So the biggest one was Peter McKinnon, like at least according to me, and he was the headliner. Peter McKinnon, who is a Canadian YouTuber, he was so full of energy. He was just jumping around the stage, literally at points jumping, so inspirational, so pumped. He's a fantastic YouTuber. If anyone in our audience wants to see some amazing either tutorials or vlog type videos, definitely highly recommended. There was Sorel Amor, who is an Instagram/YouTuber. She's famous for her selfies, like our friend Laura, who we had recently on the podcast. She also won the best job in the world when there was a competition. She was the winner of to travel the world for 3 months and film videos, etc. So she was great. We had What's Inside, father and son. They were sitting in front of me during part of the event. So I chatted with them about Teslas because they own a Tesla. So that was fun. We had Dan Mays, who is the filmmaker, director, and the editor of Casey Neistat, who is one of the most famous YouTubers. And we had a few others, and one of my favorites, Cody Warner, who is a vlogger, daily vlogger, very full of energy, super inspirational, and who said there is no such thing as a small creator. You are a creator because creating is such a big thing. You cannot be a small creator. You can be a small channel, but you cannot be a small creator.
I hear there was also this small channel, big creator, Lukasz there.
Well, I didn't speak this time. Maybe next year, who knows? But yeah, it was a great event. I really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely coming back next year. So yeah, that was great fun.
So you've mentioned who was there. What was the subject of the talks? What were the talks that were being given at the event? Give us some context.
Yeah, Power of Video is mostly about video, filming, filmography. So about what you can do with video, how to get bigger. Mostly about YouTube and Instagram. Those are the two main platforms. Someone mentioned Vimeo very briefly. That was only once, but mostly it was about YouTube and how you can improve, how you can get inspired, how you can get. It was highlighted how difficult of a job it is to do videos, and I know that firsthand, creating those complex reviews that we make with Matteo. It takes so much time. It's writing the script, it's preparing the shots, it's filming the shots, going on location, it's editing, it's finding music, it's editing it together. It takes so much effort, and usually people don't know. It might seem it's a quick job to do a 5-minute or 10-minute review. Well, it takes so much time. So yeah, it was mostly inspirational, especially the Creator Day. Before that, there were master classes and Industry Day. So I didn't get to see those, but those are more tutorials.
So essentially, you went to more of a product day, but there were more, say, ops and how-to days before and after that.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. But still, I learned quite a bit, and it was fun. So yeah, that was a great.
So this was yesterday. That was Saturday. You were at the event for the day.
Yeah.
And then you ended up missing your bus to the airport or getting the wrong bus, and ended up spending an extra night in Belfast.
Yeah.
Did you go to the pub and have a cider?
Not this time, but I having told the story to the hotel, they were nice enough to upgrade my room and give me free breakfast. So because of the the bus driver who wasn't great. So props to Marriott in this case.
That's good. Great. So you had a good experience. You flew Flybe. That's great. So last week we didn't have a podcast because we were both otherwise engaged. I, in particular, was in Italy for my sister's wedding. I obviously flew Air France KLM, actually KLM Air France, KLM on the way out, Air France on the way back, and had a great time as usual. Excellent service from the airline and the cabin crew. And yeah, so we've had a bit of travel in the middle, and we're both planning some travel for the future.
Yeah.
Now, you're leaving next Sunday to go to China. So tell us a bit more about that, Lukasz.
Yeah, so from next Sunday, as you're saying, I'm traveling to China. It's actually a tour. It's not something I usually do. In the past, I always just booked all my flights myself, made all of the arrangements, booked all the hotels, etc. This time I'm going on a tour because China is such a different place, and getting to know that place, I thought it would be better with a guide in a small-ish group of around 12 to 15 people. We'll have a guide full-time, and we'll have in each place, we will have a different guide as well, a local guide. And I will visit Beijing, Xi'an, which is the Terracotta Warriors. I will visit Yangshuo, which is in the Guilin area, which is the rural, beautiful scenery. And I will visit Shanghai. And after those 4 places, the tour ends, but I'll still visit Hong Kong on my own. So for 2 nights to see the slightly different side. And so yeah, that's the plan.
That sounds great. And I will be leaving the following Wednesday, that's Wednesday the 19th, to go to the US. So I'm flying to the west coast of the US and going on a slightly long road trip from San Francisco up to the Oregon border along the coast, planning to have one evening per brewery with my better half, Candice. So it's going to be fun.
Lovely. So we're likely to miss out on the podcast during that time, but you might be a guest on one.
Yes. So whilst I'm in the US, our plan is for me to be a guest on All About Android on Twit TV. So if you really, really miss my voice, there's an extra chance to catch up with it, as well as Florence Ion, Ron Richards, Jason Howell, and Victor. So you can keep up to date with All About Android, where I will be probably taking the Xiaomi A2 Android One device, which we recently unboxed here on our YouTube channel, and the A2 Lite, which is another Android One device, which we also unboxed on Tech Travel Geeks on YouTube. So if you want to see those videos and other ones we've done, you can easily subscribe. That button down there will allow you to subscribe.
So the A2 Lite you just unboxed the last few days, and it was just released this morning. So how's the initial experience for you?
Yes, so I unboxed the device a few days ago. I've been using it as one of my main devices, and I'm really enjoying it. There was a lot of hate thrown at the device during the announcement because it uses a slightly older chipset. It doesn't have a lot of the modern conveniences of smartphones, such as it doesn't have NFC. It uses micro USB to charge. And I'm not too bothered by that. The device has a great battery life, arguably much better than the A2 main device. In day-to-day use, I haven't noticed any slowdowns, both playing games, listening to music. The A2 Lite, in my view, is a much better value for money device than the A2, but that's just my opinion. We'll need to finish our full review of both devices on Tech Travel Geeks. And if you subscribe to this channel, you will most likely see a notification pop up telling you that we have released the video. So keep an eye out, subscribe to Tech Travel Geeks on YouTube, and as well as that, you'll also be able to follow this podcast, which, as we said, we may miss another week in a couple of weeks' time, but next week we already have a great guest lined up. We'll announce more during the week on Twitter. Hopefully we'll be able to do that episodes before we both leave so that we're both on.
Excellent.
So, Lukasz, we've both got travel planned. I have good news. A while back, I was searching for my camera, one of my cameras. Now, I hadn't been using a proper camera for a while. I had been mostly using phones because they are good enough nowadays. And when I did want to film some video or take some better pictures, I was looking for this device, my Panasonic Lumix TZ40. And I thought I had lost it through an airport or somewhere. It turns out I hadn't. It was here all along, sitting in the drawer with some old phones.
Shocking.
So I have charged it, and will be using that on my travels, as well as my Panasonic GX80, which is a mirrorless device with a micro four thirds lens system. I'm
Mhm.
loving it at the moment. I, I'm really impressed by some of the pictures I took at my sister's wedding last week
Mhm.
in low light with a decent lens on it. Um, what cameras are you taking on your trip to China?
So I'm taking a bigger one. I'm also using the Micro Four Thirds system, but it's the slightly bigger GH5. This is the Panasonic's um, one of the best cameras that they do. There's also G9, which is more photography focused. This is the video focused. So it it's one of the best out there, and I love it. I use it all the time to film all of our videos, all of the review videos, and yeah, it's a fantastic camera. And I'm also
Yes.
taking the drone, hopefully the the Mavic Air, which is again a fantastic device. So the only thing in China is that you have to register the drone when you enter the country. So I will need to speak to our guide probably, get a phone with and get them to translate the bits of the web page which will say the which device number etc. it is. Once I do this, I should be able to fly the drone in some of the places. Unfortunately, not in central Beijing or not at the Great Wall, which is a bit of a bummer. But definitely in the rural areas, I cannot wait.
That's great. So those redundant backups of all the data, location data, and some snapshots of images won't take as long to back up because you'll be in DJI's home country. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are a Chinese company and they're killing it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Very
Uh,
good. So you're taking the Panasonic GH5 and your drone, and you'll obviously be taking your Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus.
yeah,
So that's good news. We look forward to lots of your content on the Instagram, both on your personal account, Lukasz Suliga, and on the Tech Travel Geeks Instagram account. You can follow both of those
yeah.
on Instagram. And not only that, so you're taking the S9 Plus.
Mhm.
We have had some news during the week about an imminent announcement of another product. Now, we haven't been told explicitly what it is, but it's a pretty safe guess that it's the Huawei Mate 20.
Mhm.
The highlight of the invitation that we have received is one which highlights AI or artificial intelligence, which is something that that's Huawei have been doing for the last generation of their smartphones. Since the Huawei or high silicon Kirin 970 chipset, they've been boasting about their AI capabilities and the fact that their chipsets have a dedicated NPU or neural networking processor.
How have you been finding those? Are they helpful?
So I've been finding it very helpful. I've been using it first on an Honor View 10, which I was using at the very beginning of this year, and more recently on the Huawei P20 Pro, which I'm still using on a daily basis, and
Mhm.
also on the Honor 10 device. And despite different optical setups, different camera setups, the software seems to be very consistent in recognizing scenes and automatically setting settings. Also, the thing that I think that is a great combination of hardware and software is that handheld night mode, 4-second exposures
Mhm.
with very, very little movement. Even if my hands are shaking, they take great low light pictures without having to carry a tripod around. So I think this is a great move that happened in the last generation of smartphones in terms of technology, which enables power saving and other funky stuff in the phone functions. But for photography, as well as for power saving, this artificial intelligence or better software is really impressive. So I'm really looking forward to whatever is announced on the 16th of October, which is going to be most likely the Huawei Mate 20, and to see what the Kirin 980 chipset can do. This is a massively improved chipset compared to the Kirin 970, in the sense that they've moved down a scale in the nanometer in the production process, which means each transistor on the chipset has moved down to the 7 nanometer scale, which will offer power savings, but also much faster. They can fit more transistors on a chip, therefore it will be faster.
That's
So
excellent.
that's good news. And Tech Travel Geeks have been invited to this event. I've just booked my flights to London and hotel. So we will be there on the 16th of October. Keep an eye out on this channel. We will hopefully have some hands-on time with whatever device is launched. And also keep an eye on our Instagram and Twitter feeds, where we will hopefully have some live coverage of the event. I'm hoping to also see a panda mode for the Mate and the P20 Pro, because that was the highlight of the Honor 10 launch.
Yeah.
And my cat Rodney keeps on tricking the Honor 10 into believing he's a panda.
Yeah. So Samsung have also started using AI in their latest phone, the Note 9, which I actually had the pleasure of holding for a few minutes yesterday, because one of my friends had one. So they seem to be trying to use at least the similar technology. It's a bit unfortunate that the S9 Plus and the S9 aren't getting those features. I'm not sure if they have a special chipset which is not available in the S9s, or is it just that they don't want to upsell those?
So this is where I think Samsung have hit a bit of a technical barrier. Having the S9 and S9 Plus running on 2 different chips for 2 different regions. So they have the Qualcomm chipset devices for the US market and the Samsung Exynos chipsets for the European and Asian markets. They can't be as consistent in spreading or moving the software onto both chipset platforms in an efficient and consistent manner. So that may be a problem for Samsung, in that the hardware of the Snapdragon 845 can quite easily offer these extra AI features, and it can process the information in a much more immediate and efficient manner, whereas they may have an issue with the Exynos chipset doing the same and implementing it consistently. So Samsung may struggle to get those software features onto the S9 and S9 Plus, despite them being virtually the same hardware. So we'll need to wait and see, but I wouldn't hold your breath with your S9, S9 Plus. This may just be your excuse to upgrade to a Note 9, or maybe even better, to whatever Huawei are announcing on the 16th of October.
That sounds interesting. Yeah.
Proper AI with a dedicated NPU on the chipset. You too can trick your camera into believing your cat's a panda.
I don't have a cat. My only pet is this guy.
Oh, what's he called? Or she?
Oh, that's a good question. It doesn't have a name. It's a
Okay.
bit unfortunate.
We'll
We'll
just
come
call it
up.
the TTG teddy bear.
Yeah.
Okay then. So we've mentioned October. That's when we're doing the Huawei event. We may even do some live video from the launch. We'll keep an eye on the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel for that. And moving on, in November, I myself will be going to China. Rather than an organized tour, I'm doing everything myself with Candice, obviously. And we're going to be mostly relying on Google Translate and VPN service.
Yeah, yes, definitely. It's something I will need as well, probably. Definitely for VPN, because of the restrictions in China. So it might be something that we will look into writing up about and making a video maybe in the future.
Yeah, to give our listeners in the podcast and viewers on YouTube a bit of context, China, if you didn't know it, has a very cordoned off or ring-fenced internet in the country, which means that very few of the most commonly used internet services in the rest of the world are available in China. And vice versa, a lot of Chinese services aren't always available outside of China, which means that to access services like Google Translate, any Google service, any Facebook service, including WhatsApp and Instagram, you need to have a VPN. A VPN is a virtual private network, which means that you're connecting to a server outside of China with an encrypted tunnel, which allows you to pass your data through that and to access those services. So, for example, if you need to use Google Translate, you'll need to have a VPN service to be able to do the online translation, which is usually faster and more reliable, whereas the offline service still works. So VPNs, there's lots of different companies providing VPN service. It's usually a monthly fee or free ad-supported VPN service. You can also set up your own one. I'm actually thinking of doing a tutorial on how to set up your own private VPN service with a Raspberry Pi in your own home.
Sounds
so you
good.
set up your own little Raspberry Pi and your own VPN, and you connect to the actual home to connect to the internet, which is quite a fun little project.
Yeah, I have 2 or 3 of those sitting in my cupboard, so that might be a good idea
That's good.
to
So
use it.
you could waken up early one morning before work and set up your own little VPN server on a Raspberry Pi.
Sounds good.
Or are you more likely to do it in the evening?
I'm more of a night guy, as you know. So yeah, don't expect me to do something in the morning.
Good. What's the time difference with China?
Same as Singapore. So it's how much? 6 hours? No,
I
don't remember.
Let me ask. Okay, Google, what's the time difference with China?
China is 7 hours ahead of Edinburgh.
7.
So it's 7 hours ahead, according to my Google Home. Thank you,
Yeah.
our friend Google. And apologies to any listeners or watchers who have had their Google Home device triggered by that sentence. I will definitely edit that out in the audio.
Sounds good.
So yes, 7 hours difference. And who are you flying with?
It's a combination of airlines, but I will be flying KLM and Air France, or one of those, definitely, and Air China and a few others. And I'm taking a train as well, a night train, domestically. So yeah, quite. It will be interesting to fly a few new airlines I've not flown with.
Yes, and also whichever Chinese rail company you'll be using will put ScotRail to shame.
Yes, most likely.
Yes,
definitely.
Okay then. So we mentioned cameras and that you're taking your Micro Four Thirds Panasonic GH5 out. In the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of news about new cameras that have been announced. What can you tell us, Lukasz?
Yeah, this is actually one of my big interests. So I've been following that a lot recently. So there have been full frame cameras announced in the last few weeks. So full frame, for our listeners and viewers, is the equivalent of the normal 35mm film. So it's the default crop sensor. So it's the lens and what you see on the screen, and it's basically the equivalent of what the eye sees, the field of view, etc. So full frame is the most popular, most desired, I would say, sensor size. It means that it can gather more light. It has better dynamic range, so it recognizes bright and dark areas and leaves the details in it, and you can see more detail in the shadows and in highlights. And yeah, it's usually better with focusing and low light especially. So and up until now, both Nikon and Canon have only had didn't do mirrorless full frame cameras. Those have always also only been done by Sony, which have the A7 lines and the A9. So A7 III was released February, March this year. A7R3 was October, November last year. So Sony has always been ahead of the curve and leaders in the market, and those cameras are really great. But Nikon have announced the Z6 and Z7, or Z6 and Z7, recently, which are a 24 megapixel and 45 megapixel cameras, $2,003 and $3,400 respectively. The Z7 is the higher end. And it's been getting some good feedback, with the exception of the fact that it only has one card slot. So if you're a professional photographer and you're taking wedding photos and the SD card dies, well, if you cannot reshoot a wedding, unfortunately. So professionals have been complaining about this. And Canon have also released an EOS R, which actually was, Canon was one of the sponsors of the Power of Video, and they had it on display, but I actually unfortunately didn't get to see it because they only had it for a few hours. And it wasn't announced just a few days ago. It's a 50 megapixel camera, mirrorless with image stabilization and a flippy screen, which is the feature that I've missed in all the other cameras. So it can go out and around, so you can do selfies, you can record yourself. None of the Sonys or the Nikons have this feature, so Canon scores some points, but it will be an expensive one. I don't have the price on just now, but it will be quite expensive. There was also a Fuji Xt3 announced literally 2 or 3 days ago, which is also a full frame mirrorless camera for $1,500, 26 megapixels. And its best feature is video quality. So it does 4K video in 60 frames per second, which is the best feature of the GH5 that I have. So you can do slow motion video in 4K. So you get the best quality. The Nikons don't do that. They only do 30 frames, the same with Canon. So Fuji has quite good features there. It's missing the stabilization though. So each of those cameras has something missing, and either it's missing stabilization, or it's missing the flippy screen, or it's missing the slow motion. So I'm still waiting for something new. And the new thing that's rumored is the new Panasonic camera. So Panasonic is rumored, they haven't announced it yet, but there's some quite credible whispers about it, that they will also be doing a full frame camera, which would be a huge thing, whether it's GH5 or a new line of cameras. If they did full frame 4K 60 with image stabilization in a smaller body, so the full frame cameras usually, because they have bigger frame, a bigger sensor, they usually are bigger. If it's this camera might be my next camera. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting equipment coming up in the camera world, and we'll see what comes up.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'll carry on using my 5-year-old Panasonic Lumix TZ40, but more importantly for the 4K stuff, I'll be using my Panasonic GX80, which for my needs is more than enough, and it has the advantage it uses the Micro Four Thirds lens system, which is common with Olympus, and there's plenty of third-party lenses which are compatible with it as well.
Yeah.
I'm currently loving playing around with an Olympus fisheye lens, tiny lens, which is more of a lens cover or a sensor cover for when you put your camera in your bag. It's great fun to play around with.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because like like Canon and Nikon both will have to have brand new lenses, and Nikon haven't released a new lens system in like 40 years, so it's huge. The question is, will they be? They will be compatible with a lens adapter. So for
But you
people who
but we might lose some functionality such as in-lens image
yeah,
stabilization and features like that.
that's correct. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff because the cameras in phones have been getting so good that the camera, the professional and semi-professional cameras have been having issues, being beneficial to users. You have your phone on you all the time, and if you want to take this big guy, it's it's a lot of effort and it's a lot of uh, it adds a lot of weight
Yeah.
to your
You
system.
you need to make a very conscious effort to take a big dedicated camera with exchangeable lenses around with you, and you need to have a reason to do it. Whereas phones are getting good enough, and with, for example, my Huawei P20 Pro, it has three lenses that get used at the same time that can come up with pretty decent pictures for social media and use online. I wouldn't blow some of them up to a one size, but they're good enough for the internet. Uh,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. There's rumored leaks of a Nokia phone, which is due to be released in the next few months, which has five lenses. So it reminds me of the razor blade wars about which one had more lenses and can give you a smoother shave. Are smartphone cameras reaching that point? Let us know in the comments here on YouTube or on Tech Travel Geeks. You can engage with us on at Tech Travel Geeks on Twitter as well.
Yeah, it's getting a bit crazy, but there's benefits, especially with the P20 Pro with those three lenses. They are doing really, really interesting things with that. So I'll be looking forward to the Mate 20 when it gets announced, if it's
Yes, we
how
think
good
it's
it
the
is.
Mate 20. We're not sure, but it's a teaser. There's an AI and it looks like a slab of a phone. We'll find out on the 16th of October.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
then. So we've talked about cameras. I think we've talked about what's coming in mobile. If you're interested, Lukasz did some amazing editing work on our Meizu M6S review, which is now live on the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel. It was great fun filming that, and we put some gratuitous drone footage in at the end just because we can.
Of course.
And it is a very nice blue phone. It's very blue.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. So yeah,
And
check it
great,
out.
great little device for everyday use. For most people, it's more than enough, and very nice body, fingerprint scanner on the side. I'm
What's
really
the
enjoying using this device.
what's the price of this one?
So this one can be bought on AliExpress for around about £110 at the moment. It's actually £108. You might need to wait a week or two for delivery from China, but for the money you're getting a lot of smartphone with a Samsung camera, Samsung chipsets, and Flyme, Meizu's own Android operating system. So it's a very, very enjoyable device to use, which has now, just after we finished the video review, been updated to Flyme 7, the latest version of their Android distribution.
And it's the similar price point as the A2 Lite, right?
It is, yes. The difference being the A2 Lite is using a much older chipset, so it's using a Snapdragon 625 or 626, depending on which software you use to assess that. That means that it's an octa-core 14 nanometer process chipset in 8 cores, all the same A53 configuration. The difference being the Xiaomi A2 Lite has a notch in the screen. It's more than 18:9 aspect ratio, and it's a full high definition plus screen, which means it's a higher resolution screen. Also, the 4000 milliamp hour battery is, I think, the winner feature for me, especially for people who travel a lot. You don't need to top up that much, and it does also do fast charge. So
Yeah,
I plugged it into a fast charger, and within an hour, it was fully charged.
that's excellent. So we talked about the low end. We talked about the high end with the Samsungs and the P20s. So what's up with the middle range?
Well, one thing that's got us quite excited, which won't be available in the UK just yet, is Xiaomi, the Chinese phone manufacturer, have launched their own challenger brand called Pocophone, and the Pocophone F1, which has many features of flagship devices such as the OnePlus 6, the Samsung S9 Plus, and other devices. It's running it's running MIUI, which is Xiaomi's own Android distribution. It offers a headphone jack and a 4000 milliamp hour battery. That's for $300. And at some point, we expect that to arrive in the UK at around about the same price range in pounds, so around about £300. But it's too early to say. There's been no official news on that. But we look forward to that arriving because that is bang mid-range, so double the price of Xiaomi A2 Lite or a Meizu M6S. You'll be getting some flagship features such as the high-end chipsets. You'll be getting some decent cameras, good screen. Still too early to say, but on the internet, there seems to already be quite a good selection of reviews.
Let's highlight this again. $300, which is a third of a Samsung phone, but it has the same chipset.
Yes, but chipsets aren't everything. I mean, it's a good start in terms of features, but there's no waterproofing. The camera may not be as good. So, but it's always one of those things that makes you think, well, why should I spend $900, $1,000 on an S9 Plus when I can get most of the same value from a $300 smartphone? It's crazy stuff. Arguably, you could say that for the price of one S9 Plus in its top configuration, you can buy a OnePlus 5 and a Pocophone F1. So you can have smartphone redundancy and carry two phones around. You'll still need to do a bit of catching up to have as many phones in your pocket as I do, but you're getting there.
That's brilliant. There's one other issue I heard about recently with Lou from Unbox Therapy talking about it in a video yesterday about DRM. So there's an issue with Netflix and a few other services like that, which will not be able to encode Netflix content in full in either HD or full HD or 4K. So the maximum resolution will be 540 pixels high. So it will not do either HD or full HD 1080p. So people have been quite alarmed about this and complaining that you will not be able to see the highest resolution of Netflix, which is a bit of unfortunate.
No, I agree with that at the beginning, in the sense that if you go through the Google Play Store to get your Netflix app, that is an issue. In my experience, this is not an issue, mainly because, to give you an example, I'm using on a daily basis a Xiaomi Redmi Note 5 Pro, thanks to Paul O'Brien for selling me this. So this is a Xiaomi Redmi Note 5 with a 4000 milliamp hour battery, Snapdragon 636 chipsets, an 18:9 aspect ratio screen, and installing Netflix from the Google Play Store will not allow me to watch an episode in HD. Whereas if I go to the Xiaomi store, so the native Chinese store, The Netflix app I have from there seems to allow me to watch content in HD. So
Oh,
this may be an app distribution and licensing issue,
hmm
as in, depending on where the device is targeted for, you may need to go to the relevant app store to get the appropriate app with the appropriate encoding in. I may be wrong on this, but I am able to watch things like Star Trek Discovery in HD on my Chinese device. And this is a much lower end device than the Pocophone. It has arguably a three-tier lower chipset. So it's not a question of hardware, it's purely about software and how they're distributing the app for Netflix. So obviously in the Play Store, the Pocophone may not be recognized by Netflix as a valid device.
hmm
Therefore, the DRM will not enable them to watch it in HD. Whereas if you get the right app from the right app store, you will most likely have no issues. But we'll need to verify this. I look forward to getting my hands on a Pocophone F1.
That's really interesting. I didn't think about that. So, yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, well, you and I work for a company that do apps, and there's publishing apps to app stores brings a lot of complexity to it. You need to target devices, screen resolutions. Then this is just for releasing the App Store. So you may get one brand off, and suddenly a whole section of users won't be able to use your app. The manifest file for publishing to app stores is very important
Mhm.
and something that should be looked after. There's always complaints when a new smartphone comes out, especially from China, that no one in Western markets has heard
Yeah.
of, that particular apps just aren't available. That's because the Play Store checks the device, and if that brand or particular model of device isn't in the manifest file, they're not allowed to publish it. And I think the same thing goes on with certain music and video apps.
Mhm. Excellent. And one brand we've not mentioned today is OnePlus. What about them? How are they doing?
Well, they're in a bit of a lull. We're expecting the OnePlus 6T to be announced soon.
Mhm.
Still no news on that. There are some leaks that we're not so sure about, but we look forward to hearing about their talk release of the OnePlus 6. So for the last few years, OnePlus have been releasing their main device in the spring or very early summer, and then a few months later are releasing an iterated, improved version with a slightly better battery, a slightly better screen that satisfies some of the market needs to keep relevant in the market. So it's starting to get close to OnePlus 6T time.
Mhm.
We look forward to seeing what happens there.
Yeah, that's quite exciting. They are the original flagship killers, so we'll
Yes.
see. We'll see how they do this time.
So for those who don't know, in the smartphone market, OnePlus launched in 2014 as the flagship killer, offering a lot of flagship features for half the price, and went on to use that as their brand name, at least until the OnePlus 3. Arguably, Huawei, with the Honor brand, started doing the flagship killer, which was their devices such as the Honor 8 Pro or the Honor View 10, which competed directly with those with those OnePlus devices. And now Xiaomi are getting into the game with their Pocophone, which is the flagship killer. So it's a bit of a morbid circle of marketing competition. We're not really sure we approve of this violent and life-ending language used.
We do not.
I'm sure we could use something better,
Yeah.
like cuddles,
And teddy bears.
or teddy bears, or fluffy cats like Rodney.
Yeah.
Why doesn't someone call their cat their new smartphone model Rodney?
Mhm.
But I think that's more the cold and flu tablet speaking more than me. I think it's time to wrap this one up. What do you think, Lukasz?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay then. So thanks for listening or watching, everyone. You can subscribe to the Tech Travel Geeks podcast on Tech Travel Geeks, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, and any other good podcast subscription service. You can also subscribe on YouTube, where you'll get our video reviews and unboxings of products as well. And you can read our ramblings and thoughts on techtravelgeeks.com. So from me, Matteo, Chief Mobile Opinionist, good night and thanks for listening.
And thanks from me, Lukasz, the Chief Aperture Officer, and we'll be very interested in hearing about this kind of a podcast, the more techie, informational one. So let us know in the comments what you think, and come back to hear the next episodes.
Yes, we might even take it a step further and have a podcast all about analytics and drop-off rates. But we'll have a look at it and see how this episode performs before we do that. Thanks very much. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.